I'm hopeless, I'm screaming, but no one can hear what I'm saying. And soon I'll be bleeding.
Well, there you have another episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine by Green Zone Hero. I met this U.S. Marine veteran 2.5 years ago in San Antonio. He's talented, he's authentic, he's passionate. He's going to live for 1,000 years. And he is out to change the world, to bring awareness to post-traumatic stress and suicide. He's a guy that makes things happen. His name is John Preston. And thank you for listening to another episode of our podcast.
You're a steely-eyed killer shadow in the night. You were born to fight. You gotta light 'em up.
My name is John Krotek, and I want to welcome you to Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine by Green Zone Hero. We're here to honor the wisdom of America's most valuable asset, her combat veterans. We're authentic, we're empowering, we're American.
Save us all before they burn it down.
Our veteran guest for this episode of Straight Outta Combat Radio, audio medicine by Green Zone Hero, is a United States Marine Corps veteran whom I met a little over 2.5 years ago in San Antonio. His name is John Preston. John's a busy guy. It was interesting because I saw John a couple months later in Dallas, so it seemed like even though he's a West Coast guy, I'm an East Coast guy, we met twice in the great state of Texas, so it was pretty cool. But like I said, John's busy. He's a combat veteran, a Palo Alto firefighter, and a Concord Entertainment Universal Music Group recording artist. John actually named this radio show. He was wearing a grunt-style T-shirt, and we were down at the Riverwalk in San Antonio, and I was looking at the shirt Straight Outta Combat. He was looking at me, I'm looking at him, we're on the street corner. I said, that would be a great name for a radio show. And he says, you got to do it. And we did. So here we are 2.5 years later. John is really known for his compassion. It's in his music, and it's also in the place that he works at the Palo Alto Fire Department. He's a member of the Critical Incident Stress Debriefing Team, and he brings to his department a different look than ever seen before, not only because he himself was a combat veteran, but because he's also a national advocate for veteran PTSD and suicide. John has used music as an outlet to reach millions and save the lives of veterans across the nation. John's single reached it was actually a pretty recent single, reached number 13 in the DRT, which is the digital radio tracking rock charts, above Metallica, the Foo Fighters, and Imagine Dragons. The song Before I Am Gone focused on veteran suicide, and its video was sent in such places as Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and TV shows throughout the United States. We also did a video, or used that video, pieces of it, and the song for our own Straight Outta Combat Radio video. John's story has been featured in People.com, Huffington Post, CNN, and many more major media outlets across the world. John's life mission is dedicated to both saving lives in the field as a Palo Alto firefighter and reaching, altering, and saving the lives of troubled American veterans. John has donated all funds from his last 2 releases to various veteran nonprofits. John is currently working on a documentary film project. We're going to talk more about that, called 22 and You. And it's going to be absolutely incredible to raise funds and awareness for people suffering from what we just talked about, PTSD and thoughts of suicide. So, John, thank you for being on the show. How are things out in California?
It's great. Hey, I love you always give me credit for the name of this show, and I wore a T-shirt that day. Let's
come on, man. But
let's be real. I wore a T-shirt that day, and you had a sparking idea. And this is what I tell everyone, right? And you know it because of the field you work in and things you do. When those ideas come through, don't let them all sit there. Jump on it. And you had an idea. And you jumped on it, and that's why we're talking today, right? Because something sparked on a T-shirt that I was wearing, and boom, we're here, and you have this awesome show that's getting tons of listens and spreading out now your message to the entire world. So I may have wore the cool
Yeah.
shirt, but it was definitely
It was a cool shirt,
your brain.
But I love your favorite word, which is 3 letters, YES, yes, and I'll take that. I'll take that, and thank you for that, John, because if you had been wearing a Simpsons shirt, this could be the Simpson podcast show. So, yeah, the idea comes, but I'm just grateful that I met you that day and we were able to forge this friendship, and I'm so inspired. The video that I just described before I'm gone is so hard hitting. Of course, Superman Falls is another one of your great tunes. And that video, man, I mean, it's deep, it's relevant, and it has helped people across the country and probably the world. So thank you. Let's, before we get to 22 and You, we want to talk about that, but tell us about childhood, a little bit about your mentors and how you even made it to the Marine Corps.
Life in general has been an interesting ride. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. I never thought that there was much beyond the Marine Corps. Like, basically, my entire family were Marines. My father was a Vietnam veteran and a Marine. All of us one-termers, right? But my father, Vietnam veteran Marine, my oldest brother, a Marine, my next brother after that, a Marine. I didn't have much of a choice. I tell the story sometimes of, I told my middle brother, who's kind of like the tough guy of the group, he's the bully. I told him I was going to go in the Air Force, and I totally got my ass kicked. And probably the worst beating I had taken at that point in life. And I decided, okay, Marine Corps it is. And the rest is kind of history at that point. I grew up, idolizing my father. He was a great man. He, just like all of us had our own vices and our own issues, and he had struggled through, post-traumatic stress with Vietnam, which at that time, there wasn't a word for it. There wasn't something that explained what he's going through. But as a child, I watched that and knew that there was something there, right? But he worked multiple jobs to make sure that we had the life we wanted. When I was a kid, I was probably around the age of my son right now, close to 10 years old, I think. I believe it was between 4th and 5th grade. My father was hit head on by a drunk driver. It wasn't head-to-head collision, which is usually the killers, right? It was this vehicle in a turn going at a good amount of speed hit the door of my father's truck. It was truck to truck to a full-size Chevy and a Ford F-150, and it blew through the door and rolled the truck. My father had a massive trauma. It was everything but head injury, right? Broken and shattered bones in his arms, broken and shattered bones in his legs. He was a snapped femur, so he was bleeding internally, a snapped pelvic, so he's bleeding internally. Probably, and I didn't know it in the beginning, but probably what inspired me to be a firefighter, because those guys cut my father out of the car and saved his life.
Yeah.
Then ultimately, this man I was idolizing at this point, and my father was a war hero, and my father was, amazing to me. And now he's in a hospital bed, and now he's tubed because they had to do so many surgeries. And now he's this robot held up by, I remember just all the trinkets and things. The one time I went to the hospital when he was still in the ICU because they took me to say goodbye. Yeah. My father pulled out of that. And he came out of that, and I probably learned everything that I am today from that period of life, because I watched a man that couldn't walk. I watched a man that had metal in his legs, that wasn't, a complete man anymore. And I watched him learn to stand up again, and I watched him learn to walk again. It was incredible, right? Yeah. To see someone, and I'm at this point, I don't even really understand what's going on. And I'm not, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed because my father can't walk. My father's not strong. He's not, where I come from, the stronger you are, the tougher you are, the more fights that you win, the badder you are, right? So I'm ashamed because this man isn't this tough, strong man anymore, but I had no idea the strength that I was watching and what I was watching happen. So basically, I watched this my hero turn into a real hero, right? And walk again. And within a year and a half, and it took him a year to walk from the accident to actually taking his first steps. And within a year and a half was back to commuting an hour and a half to get to work, to work for his family. And to make sure that we had food on the table and make sure that our life was back intact. You know, and I learned generosity then, because obviously he was head on. He got a lawsuit with the insurance, so he had enough money to do a little bit, right? Because I was raised very poor. He had enough money to go out and do things, and he didn't do anything selfish, and he didn't do anything for himself or my mother. He bought my brothers and I things, and he brought his own brothers in and his family in to do projects on the house and work so that they got paid. So he took this treasure that he was given from his own trauma and abuse in life, and he gave it away to his family. You know, so I learned who I was.
You know, it's amazing how those challenges and those, like you just said, you know, you felt ashamed, but at the time you were learning lessons that have, you know, stayed with you and stuck with you until today. And
it is who I am today, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, like I didn't plan on talking about that today. Yeah, I didn't know we were going there today.
No, it's all good, man. Because I thank you for sharing that.
And I'm happy it went there, because it's a reminder to me, and especially with what I'm doing right now and where we're at right now.
Yeah,
it's a reminder to me of how hard, you know, life can be, and how hard we have to work to make it better. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you witnessed your dad rebuild his life after such a horrific accident. And then, you know, I know you're West Coast, but you went to Parris Island, right?
Yeah. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up in Kentucky. I was east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to Parris Island. There was, in reality, I probably wasn't going in the Air Force. Yeah.
We know that.
It's a great joke, though. It's a great story because it's real. But
nothing wrong with the Air Force. You're just a Marine. There's a difference.
My best friend was going in the Air Force. I was like, dude, this looks great.
Yeah,
So,
I gotcha.
You mean they make your bed for you? So
you know, we could go there. That could be a whole other show. But
yeah. So ultimately, I wanted to make my father proud. You know, this man was like the top of the world to me, and both of my brothers had accomplished. And I was the baby, man. I was the baby. I was the smallest. I was mentally, we could call it weakest, right? But I was just more emotionally in tune than everyone else, right?
Yeah.
But
well, that's in your music. You can definitely tell for sure.
So I'm a different person. And I kind of wear my heart on my shoulder, and you know, so I have to prove myself. And you know, I got every opportunity to do that, right? Because I don't just prove myself in going into the Marine Corps. I turned out being the only combat veteran of the Sons, you know, and the only sergeant of the Sons, the only. So I was like, what's up now, you know? So unfortunately, that peacocking affected my life later, but it at that point that was where I was at, you know, and that was the influences following my influences. Music was kind of a different world. It's always been a different world, and we've kind of just tied them together, you know, and knowing that we can bring effective change with just the God-given talent that I have, you know. Absolutely.
And exactly. You know, like I was saying, you know, we talked about the video, but the video is hard hitting, and it mixes all of those elements together. Emotion, reality of real subjects like PTS and you know, suicide prevention, which I know, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that or a lot about that, but you know, the effectiveness of your God-given talent, which you just described, is you can't really measure it. You know, it's out there working, and you know, millions of people have heard that one song and watched that video, and I can guarantee it. There were probably a lot of tears shed, and there were probably a lot of old buddies calling each other up just from that one impact of one single song with a powerful freaking video. I get it, man. So so you're there, you know, you're proving yourself, the Crucible, Parris Island, all the things we hear about the Marine Corps training. You know, was there any one thing in training, John, you know, in basic that you can remember where you just... where things just crystallized that you were becoming a Marine?
No, dude, I was young and dumb, and I was strong and in shape, right? So going through it, the only thing I remember specifically that kind of was like, this is real, is I remember just every morning for formation, because you're getting up before the sun comes out. I don't think I'd ever done that in my life,
Yeah.
and you're standing outside, and they'd always form us up in front of the pit just in case somebody messed up in the morning. They probably already decided that somebody was going to mess up in the morning, right? So they'd form us up in front of the pit, and occasionally they would pit us like almost every day in the morning before breakfast. We'd be covered in dirt when we went in there. So I remember sitting in those formations, and I remember thinking, like, man, this is the craziest dream I've ever had, because it wasn't real.
Yeah.
It wasn't real, and you're so tired, and you're so just somewhere else, and you're learning like a new life, right? My father was a sweet and loving man, though he was a killer Marine, right? He was a sweet and loving man, and like his concept of compassion and all that. And now I'm being told in my brain, no, you kill things. Like, so I'm transforming into this new person. And I remember like just clearly like going, man, this isn't real. I'm going to wake up, in 5 minutes from now, and I'm going to be in Kentucky. I'm going to be home, and none of this ever happened, and there's no way I'm going in.
It's funny the way you
thinking that.
I remember you, and the way you described that, I could even think of moments in my own experience was like, holy crap, this isn't real. I'm going to be home in a week or something, but it is real, and the Marine Corps does mold people into new people, and that's what you became. When you graduated, who showed up?
My family, my father, my who was it? I know my father, my mother, my brothers, maybe only one of them. The other one was still in, and he was in Barstow when I graduated. So one brother, and then my father's best friend and my best friend. So it was a nice group of people that came down when it happened.
How were you feeling, man, when that, what was going through your head at that time? It was real then.
Yeah, I remember finishing the Crucible. They hand you the Eagle Globe and Anchor, and I remember standing on the grinder and getting that, and I remember just being like soaked in my own tears and like snot, and just like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I remember that feeling, and I remember the day on the grinder, the comedy of like you're going out and you're going into your formation and you're marching around the grinder for the graduation, and you look out, like you get that glance when the eyes right you towards the crowd, and you can see the crowd all smacking the sand fleas off of them, right?
Right.
And they're
and
all
you're
like,
thinking,
oh God, I'm getting bit by something. And none of you, this entire 1,000 Marines out on the grinder, are reacting to anything, right? You're just like, whatever, sand fleas eat me. It's nothing. I'm solid now, so I remember that. And then I remember getting in the car with my family and immediately going, can we get some Copenhagen and Bud Light? I remember that too.
Nice, man. Well, that's pretty cool, man. Congratulations. And but I could just visualize the way you say that, they're all, and I've heard from Marines that have said the sand fleas in South Carolina will eat you alive. Is that true?
Yeah, it's legit. Like they talk about the Reaper in their little hill out there on the West Coast, but it's nothing like being eaten for 18 weeks straight.
Gosh, yeah, miserable, man. Misery at its best, and I guess misery loves company. So there's a reason for all of that. So you go through graduation. It's an awesome experience, and then how long was it before you deployed, or where did you go after that?
I was in 2000, so it was. It's funny. My buddy that's actually is part of 22andU, but we'll get into that later. But he just posted something the other day of 9/11 and where we were, because we were out on a range when it happened. We were running CACs, and he told his whole story and view of it, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, it's my story. Yeah, we were just in different. He was in Fox Company, I was in Golf Company. 9/11 happened. That's the reality of it. 9/11 happened. And I remember my father telling me, dude, you're going in a time where there's going to be war. You need to be prepared for that. You need to know that you're not your brothers. You're not going to deploy to Italy and these places. You're going to war. And I remember my dad telling me that clearly, and I'm like, whatever, dude. And then 9/11 happened.
Yeah. Everybody remembers that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we went, okay, it's not a matter of if, it's when. We deployed to Japan after that. And the entire 7th Marines Regiment, when we kicked off Iraq, or not 7th Marines Regiment, but 1st Mardiv, went to Iraq, and we stayed in Japan. I didn't go for the initial surge of the war because they needed one of our units to stay in the whatever, Southeast Asia. Yeah. So we missed that part of the war. And we're at this point where we're thinking, oh my God, there's a war happening. We're never going to go. And then we got back. We were in garrison for probably 2 months. And they said, okay, we have this group of people that is not deployed yet. They're ready to go. They have a bunch of senior Marines. They're, stacked with NCOs. Let's send them. So we ended up getting deployed then. And I actually, at that time, I was already fapped out the base telephone. I only had 6 months left in the Marine Corps. And they called us and actually gave us a choice. Do you want to stay back and work the main side stuff here in the U.S., or do you want to come with us and go to Iraq? And all of us as the NCOs, because we were fapped out getting our cushion job, right?
Right.
We said, yes, we're going to combat. We got to come back, So we all went and did our thing.
What'd you see there in Iraq? What year was that, John?
It was 2004. I was busy. Yeah, I was busy because I raised my hand. I do that on accident.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Even then, when I was dumb and young,
strange how that happens.
Didn't really want to do anything. I always raised my hand to put myself into somewhere where I had to be responsible or heroic. I didn't mean to.
you were probably just pointing at something up, up in the sky. Okay, Preston, let's go.
I was just looking at that. There's an airplane. No, but
no, I get it.
So I turned out being a mission squad leader for 27 H&S. So we had a mission squad that ran out every day. We were security for EOD, security for for state platoon. We were security for just random logistic trips out to different bases. So we moved, and then we were an infantry squad during our offensive that we actually call Operation Just Kidding, because there was a lot of hype and not as much fighting as we expected. And that was right before Fallujah happened. We were busy. I never lost any of my Marines, but I lost some Marines that were very close to me. We had skirmishes and IEDs blow and things like that. But, that vision of a really beautiful assault in combat, it never happened while I was there, and in reality probably only happened about 5 times in the entire 15-year war, right? Yeah, where we were able to mechanize and fight, because we had an enemy that poked us with needles as we walked across the soft ground, and they would stab us in the foot. And they did that over and over again, and it was more deterring than anything. For me, the positive in all of it was we were opening schools. We were, building their community. We were building their military. We were giving them jobs. We were doing all these things that were doing what they wanted to do, which was westernize and become this country that had its own power. And unfortunately, I think the biggest hit to me was, what was it, 2011, 2012, no, a little later, when we left Iraq, and then ISIS surged, right? 2014, I believe. But that, to me, all this time and effort and lives that we put into it were absolutely just kept on.
What do you think kept you focused the whole time?
When I was there?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I was 22 years old. To me, it was coming home and, eating a cheeseburger and doing a chick, whatever, living the American life, and knowing that what we were doing was going to give someone else an opportunity to maybe down the road have that kind of freedom. I was driven by the concept of, I'm not going to lose a Marine. I was a leader. I had, anywhere from 15 to 60 Marines under me at one point. It was just, I'm not going to lose anyone. I'm not going to, We have to be diligent and focused. And then, at times I catch myself complacent and sleeping on patrols. You you can't help fatigue, you can't help tired, and you can't help when you spend 2 months out of a 6-month deployment not being attacked, and then all of a sudden you're attacked. You don't know what to do. So it was like that. There was a lot of ebb and flow and up and down. And I don't think that I ever was worried or concerned that I was going to die. I didn't think that, I kind of heroically said as I left, if I die for my country, I die for my country, but my goal is to come home. So I just wanted to move forward. I wanted to rock and roll, dude.
Yeah. The good thing is you didn't lose anybody. So, so you came back in 2005? 2004.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
What was were you getting out? Was it ETS time, or did you go back?
So I had actually re-enlisted, or not completely. I had filled out the paperwork and had it on the desk of the re-enlistment guy. And I was looking at like doing like an I&I duty kind of thing in Southern California. But I had my first success with music then. And I ended up, I wrote a song called Good Good America while I was over there. We made this video that, like, my buddy was in the comm shop, so I pieced all this stuff together with Windows Media Player back then, Yeah. And it was just the trashiest crap video you could watch. You could find it if you look good enough on the internet.
I'll have to write that one down.
But we we make this, and then we got public press. LA Times wrote a story about it. It blew up. It ended up front paging every newspaper in the country at that time, which was a big deal back then.
Oh, absolutely.
So we had a website that a guy in New York made for us while we were there, and for just specifically putting the song on. There was no other reason. YouTube didn't exist yet. And it blew up. We shut our website down. I remember calling New York going, hey, dude, I don't know what you need to do. Make this work. Because we had, several 100,000, I think it was like 600,000 downloads of the video, because that's when you had to download it to watch it, right?
Right.
Yeah. 600,000 downloads of the video in a day or something. It was something crazy. I felt and I tasted that success, and because of that, I tore up my re-enlistment papers, and I, got out and was going to be a rock star.
Yeah, cool. Well, so what was when you transitioned out, did you get any kind of out process, or basically you were just out?
Not then, dude. We had SEPs, and that's like the separation thing where you do a day class or couple days class or whatever on how to do a resume and whatever. It was about the least prepared you could be to transition into civilian life. But that's what the Marine Corps did then. I think, and honestly, I think that's why we have so many problems with my generation of Marines, not modern day Marines coming out, and not even 5 years ago combat vets coming out. We're looking at an entire first wave of combat veterans that when they got out had no guidance on what to do.
Yeah.
And no transition. And a lot of us went in a bad direction. A lot of us went towards addiction or self-medication or whatever, dealing with your own stresses and problems. And that's why we're where we are today. That's what I think if you just tick a little off the path, just a tiny bit off the path, if you just lean to the right a little and you walk forever just a little bit off the path, you're going to be way the hell off the path by the time, you look up and you realize there's a problem. And we want to get people back in line. We want to get people back in the right direction and keep walking this path with us, and my generation didn't have good separation process. We didn't have the knowledge that Marines and soldiers and everybody have now. There's programs now where they're putting them in school before they even get them out of the military. They're signing them for an extra year so they can educate.
Well, even you getting out and forging and breaking ground, and all the other Marines and other, armed forces that got out during that time, they basically broke the ground for this newer generation. Without your guys' experience, it would probably still be going on. It wouldn't be as good. And who says that it's good, but it's better than it was when you got out.
Well, yeah, it's much better.
Yeah.
It's much better.
So if you were, looking back on it, John, 15 years later, would you do it all over again?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably, It depends on the size of the war. I'd do it now. Like it doesn't. I might be too old at this point. I don't know what like enlisted ages, but regardless,
I think it's, I don't know, 45. Who knows? But I remember,
Yeah.
there were some older guys when I was in, but they weren't that old. But so you get out. You had this taste of fame, a little bit of fame, and what did you start doing, man? Did you go directly to the fire department, or did you hang out for a while?
No. I signed a record label when I got out. I released a single. It went, and then it was a drunk for a while. I had a couple jobs. I moved out to the Bay Area. I quit playing music. I was done with it, and then ultimately figured out what addiction was because I became a drunk, and but I was functional. I was good. I was good at being drunk. That's what's scary, right? Because we're good at it. And if the right people are around enabling you, allowing you to continue to do that, then there's nothing wrong, right? This is my choice to drink. I'm the one drinking. I'm not being told I need to drink. I'm drinking. It's my choice, and I kept wrecking everything. My whole initial run with music probably would have been much better if I wasn't blacking out every night before I was supposed to go in the studio. It was a transition that I failed because I didn't know how to be an adult, because I didn't know what transition meant, and I didn't have the Marine Corps to tell me where to be, when to be, and how to be there anymore.
Well, so what was the turning point, man?
It took years. I guess my son being born, when my son was born, I said to myself, I have to get a career. I have to do something that'll make, him proud down the road. I want him to look at me like I look at my father. And that's when I went after the fire service, and I did that in a couple of years. It took a couple of years to get in. It took work and education and internships and everything that you can imagine, but I got in. And then when I got there is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now. When I got there in this greatest job on earth that pays great in the Bay Area, that everything you can imagine it could be, you're a rock star riding around in your big red engine, with everybody waving and smiling, and you get to help people, and you get to save lives and do cool adrenaline junkie shit by kicking down doors and blowing water all over a burning building, but I still didn't feel complete. And I felt like I was missing something. I had put music down for a very long time. And I knew that was what I had to do,
Yeah. So you got back in the studio, you signed another contract, or what happened?
Yeah, I came up with the idea. I read The Alchemist, and that what we were just talking about with your show, right? Like, I used to be afraid to move on ideas, and I realized that was just how I was raised, because I was raised pretty poor, where like in that world, the world's against you, and you're limited to whatever your mind tells you you're limited to, and that's why you never grow out of that stage, right? So I learned with the fire service, life is short. A lot of people die, a lot of things happen. You got one run, do it. You got one run, do it. And I had all these songs, and I had all this music, and I had all these things, and I thought, what if my son's 25 and I die and he never heard any of that? He has no record of that. He doesn't know anything about that. What does that say about me and who I am and creating my legacy? And I thought, I had a friend that was dealing with post-traumatic stress. I had a friend that was a meth addict that I was very close to, that I served with in the Marine Corps, that I was roommates with in the Marine Corps. And I wanted to try to fix him, and that's what I did. I went at it right then and there. And at that point, not realizing that I was dealing with some major post-traumatic stress myself, and I just was yet to address that.
Right.
I found that in creating my music. I found that in moving forward towards these incredible tasks, right? Like, hey, how many people do you know that have charted in the top 200 in the world? I don't know very many. I do, because
I know
I'm
one.
friends with all of them now, but
I know one.
But before that, especially where I'm coming from, in a town of Warsaw, Kentucky, where we take a job at the steel mill, we join the military, or we move what we call uptown, which is a more busy town. to go work in like a business world, right, at a bank or something like that. But that is your limitation, and that is where you're stuck. And I didn't want to be stuck there. So I believe that greatness is real. My father used to tell me that I could do anything I wanted to do, that I could, rule the world if I wanted to rule the world, just take it. And I never understood what he meant by just take it. I was like, how in the hell do I take it? What do I do? And then I realized my thoughts can be reality if I move forward when I think about them, right? If this cool idea comes in my head, I just got to get it.
So
Chase it and move towards it.
Yeah. So the song you're talking about is Superman Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
We're not even there. It's crazy. How long is this interview?
No, we're good, man. No. So you're getting back on track. You're riding around, doing hard work. Fire departments, I mean, you're making it sound all glorified, but it's hard work, man. You know it is. But
it is, but it's super self-fulfilling,
Yeah.
Like the gratitude that you get. Like, yesterday I busted a window in someone's car and got the most gratitude ever. And it's like,
that sounds
blew
cool.
Your window out of your car, but their 2-year-old stuck in the back sweating his butt off. So it's cool that I blew that window off. Yeah. We didn't have time to wait on anyone to bring some more keys. So there's so much gratitude in that job that unless you beat each other up at work, it's one of the most self-fulfilling jobs I've ever had. Beyond what I'm doing in the music industry, it's the most self-fulfilling thing that I think I could ever do. So it is a great job, but it is a lot of work. And what people don't know or understand is for most of my career, I've paid for everything. People think, oh, John's releasing through Universal which announcement on that, my label just signed a deal with Sony. We are changing distribution. We're going from Universal to Sony. So I'm now technically a Sony artist. Ta-da.
That's good. Congratulations, man.
Right.
We got to have a drum roll for that.
Yeah.
I need to get sound effects, but congratulations, man. And that takes hard work. So, the humility shines through. I get it, and we, but it's a good thing to hear because so many people think that, oh, John Preston, he's on Easy Street. He's got this glorious job running around town, putting out fires and look at him now. He's with Sony. He's had it made, and the reality is BS. You didn't have it made; you had to earn it, and that's
no. I grinded,
and
I mean, dude, I had paychecks where I was at over 100 hours of overtime.
Yeah,
exactly, like over 100 hours of overtime, so that I could pay for my next music endeavor, and part of that was my fault because I kept my father's stubbornness, so I was afraid to ask people to help. Yeah, that's a big thing that's changed my life now, which is incredible and creating so much more waves now is I'm not afraid to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. You guys interested?
No, absolutely. That's a great.
I was like, I have to create a name first. I need to put the work in and I need to put this all on my back. So I was my CEO, my COO, my press agent, my everything. And I blew through like all these different people that tried to help me because I would outwork them and I would get frustrated with them. Right. And I'm like, I'm outworking you. I can't work with you. So I dealt with all these, weird issues because of that. But I kept climbing and I kept building success. When you said my intro, right? I just listened and took that in. For the first time in probably 6 months, I listened and took that in and thought, oh my God, dude, I have worked really hard.
You have, man. And, it's impressive.
I deserve a high five,
Like I said, now you just gave me another idea. I've got to get a drum roll thing in here. So
yeah, we need a drum roll thing.
We need one. We need a recording. So
because I'm announcing all kinds of things this thing.
That's good. And wait till we blast this one out, man. This is going to make my ratings go up. But
so
that's cool.
To answer your question about Superman Falls, and I don't want to go into this podcast if that's okay with you.
No, that's fine, man. It's your story. I'm just asking questions.
In January of 2016, I'm in the middle of climbing, right? And I'm in the middle of becoming this artist. My older brother, 6 months after losing our father, to a freak, like surgery fail.
Sorry about that.
My older brother took his own life. I wasn't the only one that saw my dad the way I saw my dad. I wasn't the only one that confided in him for everything in life. You know, my dad was basically my agent without being my agent. He didn't do groundwork, but he gave me every bit of confidence that I needed to be, you know, moving forward with the music industry. And when he left and he was gone, I never let him leave. You know, I in my brain still talk to my father. I, you know, didn't go through much of a grieving process because all these weird little things kept happening that kept showing me that my father was still here with me. So I knew that. And on the day of my brother's death, I dreamt of my father for the first time. And I'd not before that seen my dad in my brain beyond the hospital. And I would have those post-traumatic stress, like flash wake ups of my father sitting in the ICU, just all, you know, tubed up and brain dead, you know. And I did 13 days of that where I sat at his side and you know, sang to him and talked to him and prayed that his soul would come back to the brain, and it never did. I used to see flashes of my father, and the day that Mike died, it was the last time that happened. And I basically got home from work. I'd worked, I think, 72 hours straight. I got home from work and I had 2 hours of sleep, and I was getting up and I was getting in a car and I was driving to Sacramento to go play a show in Sacramento. So I laid down and I got in bed and I woke up like freaking out because I was having a dream and my father was in a panic. My dad was there and he was with me and he was really close to me, like up in my face, and he's crying, like bawling. And he says, "I'm never going to leave you. I'm always going to be with you. I'm never going to leave you. I'm always going to be with you." And he just kept saying it like aggressively, right? And I, boom, wake up and I'm like, what is wrong? What happened? Yeah. And nothing had happened. Yeah. Nothing. So I'm confused. I called my mother. Mom's like, "Yeah, everything's cool." Mike had a fight with Kelly or something, you know, and I'm like, so Mike's good, man. You know, Mike's good. Mike wasn't good. Yeah. He wasn't good. And whatever happened that day that brought that spiral to completely come around full circle and give him that idea that he could put a pistol in his mouth and that was going to make life better for everyone else around him, happened. And he did it. And he put a pistol in his mouth, and he didn't make life better for anyone. He didn't make life better for anyone. He wrecked a lot of lives. And it took us a long time to piece this back together, and we are not pieced back together yet. And people need to understand that my family is not pieced back together yet. I have twins that live in different houses because they don't talk to each other. This is not okay what happened.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'm doing in my success, don't give my brother a high five for that. You know, don't give him that, because I would fucking fail over and over and over again to not do that. You know, yeah. I would rather sit in a fucking couch and watch TV all day and never do anything that I'm doing right now if I could sit down with him and we could laugh and joke and be us again. But he's gone, and that's not fixable. So that's why I'm doing what I do. You know, that's why I am who I am.
You know, many times, John, thank you for sharing that. But, you know, many times when there's this catalyst, and this, of course, this is a major tragedy, and sometimes it takes a major tragedy, especially with a guy like you that's so creative, to create a mission that's going to help change and transform the way shit like that goes down. And, you know, at least you're candid enough to say that shit's not all right. You know, so if you're out there contemplating that now, you know more about the subject than I do, but I've been in that dark abyss myself. And, you know, thank you for pointing that out, because you don't think it's probably one of the most selfish things you can ever do. And people say, well, you can't judge the person that does it. Well, but if they're actually,
that's the most bullshit thing. The person that says that has never had someone do it to them. You know,
I get it.
The person that says that has never had someone do it to them.
And if that person was thinking about it and thinking about something beyond just the immediate emotional bullshit they're going through, which, you know, we can get through anything.
Yeah.
You know,
it's all tackleable.
It's exactly, man. And so, you know, at least you're candid enough to tell how it is. That's how you feel. You're not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
That shit destroys lives. You know, you take your life, you know, that's a big decision to make. Life is worth living no matter how bad it can get.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sorry about that, you know, but
I wish he could have right at that moment when he made the decision, I wish he could have a candid snapshot of what life is. Just an audio clip of his 9-year-old son saying for the last 3.5 years now, I wish I was dead so I could be with my daddy, and just take a candid freaking voice clip of that and play that in his head right before he squeezed that trigger.
That's serious collateral damage right there, man.
I don't think he would have squeezed the trigger. I don't think he would have. I know my brother, man. He was a good dude. Yeah, he was a good dude. He had his faults. We all have our faults. He was a cop for 20 years. He was a jaded person because of that job, because people don't respect that job and they treat them like trash, you know? And they're out putting their life on the line every day.
Which really is upsetting when you see some of the divisiveness that goes on and this whole bunch of bullshit against people that wear the blue. You know, it's just it's trash. It's very disheartening. I mean, which is a light word. I could use some heavier words, but it's just bullshit. You know, these people that put their lives on the line every day, and because of politics, they want to prime the pump. So. Yeah. So you got this catalyst. I mean, a huge ass catalyst, you know, and
and we talked about it. Superman Falls did good things, right? Like it was an idea, man. It was an idea. I wrote the song. I did the song right after he died. I think I wrote it 6 months after he died. I'd written an entire album, which was a whole new project that I never stepped on because I wasn't motivated enough, you know. But I wrote Superman Falls, and I knew when I wrote it, I said, I did something special here. I woke up in the middle of the night with the lyrics. It wasn't like one of those sit down with a guitar and try to figure out what I'm saying. I woke up singing it and went to my kitchen and wrote the song.
Do you have a guitar in your studio now? Are you sitting next to a guitar?
In the other room. But
I was going to say, play a stanza, man.
I think there's dogs out there. It's crazy out there in the other room.
No, I get it. So
I think my girlfriend's Pelotoning right now. Like, so yeah.
Oh, I get it. No, it's good. So next time. So that one hits the charts, and you're right. I've never met anybody till you. I've never even probably met a real rock star until I met you. So
yeah, and I don't call myself a rock star.
Yeah, but you are, man. You're a star.
An adventurer, right? Like I'm someone who believes in things and I go after things.
But you have passion, though, brother, and that you know, there's so much. People dream about passion, and guys like you who exude it are such great examples. We may not think about it. You're sitting there telling me you're listening to your bio, and when you sit back, John, and you look at that, then you look at yourself in the mirror, man, be proud of that stuff. I know you are, but that's what drives you, and that kind of drive is what drives and inspires millions of people globally. It does, man. Yeah. It does. So that you know, that happens. I know that your family's still in recovery mode. It's probably never gonna heal completely. It's a big missing part of your life. You know, songs can kind of fill a creative void. Well. But
I executive produced an album that had Ryan on there. It had Scott on there. You know, these guys that are also veterans doing great things. Ryan Weaver, Scooter Brown Band, Adam Martin.
Love those guys.
Blackbird
man.
Anthem.
Yep.
These guys are, you know, all doing awesome things in our community right now, and we got them all on one album, right?
Killer project, man. I mean,
and I
literally
did something that I had learned to do that I didn't really know I could do. I ran the press on it, right? Like, I had been doing that for myself forever. Anybody that thinks that entrepreneurship is complicated or like there's this whole puzzle to it, do what you think is right. Like, first of all, don't go out and listen to everybody talk and think that, like, oh, this must be the way to do it. Oh, this must be the way to do it. Well, Gary Vee said this, you know. Do your thing. Like, trust me, do your thing and don't listen to anyone else that tells you your thing is wrong.
I'm so glad, man, that you pointed that out, because you will go down so many dead ends listening to everybody else about how your dream's supposed to come to reality.
Oh yeah, you gotta do what feels good, man. And for me, it was public press, right? Everybody told me I need to be playing shows. Everybody told me I need to get my band together. Everybody told me that I need to do this, I need to do that. My thing was, put together very clean, well done. Dave Neese is phenomenal, and he's on this film project as well that we're doing. But Dave put together all my behind the scenes things. Faculty of Media did every video that I did, and we put together these huge, like, productions. Right? These are movies you're watching. This isn't like a music video. You know, these are movies you're watching, and we put all those out. And then I attacked the public press. I went after People Magazine. I went after every TV news in the state, you know, every TV news in the state of Ohio, where I'm from, you know, or Kentucky, but Ohio is basically Cincinnati is where I'm at. And I got all these people to get on board with us and put us public, right? And that was my route. Scooter Brown Band, Scott played 260 shows a year for 10 years. That was his route, right? Everybody has a different route. But in this case, where it was time to promote an album, I knocked it out of the park, you know, because I had it there and I had more motivation than I ever had in my life. I wanted the world to know what happened to my brother. You know?
Well, so, and you've let the world know, and that's why it moved up the charts, because it freaking resonated, you know?
Yeah. And that was it. And since then we released Before I'm Gone. We actually released Superman Falls as a single, which went higher than Before I'm Gone on the charts. It went higher on the DRT. It, you know, I charted on iTunes. Like, it was the first time I'd ever charted a single, I think, or maybe Before I'm Gone was. I don't remember, but it's funny. Like, I try to reflect. I have no idea. But
it just goes, man. It just, because the time goes, man, and you're busy. You know, you can't remember all of it, but but your formula is working. So, yeah, I mean, and now you were saying you were 22 and You. Are we there yet? 22 and You. I know that.
We're there. I got a little sidetracked.
No. I'm glad.
I wanted to finish what had happened with Superman Falls and basically, you know, the impact that made, right? Because this was. I was working before for a friend, you know, and trying to help them. And then my unit ended up plagued with suicide. So we were like the top in the world. New York Times released that we were the highest rated unit for suicides in the Marine Corps. And then.
Why do you think that? Why do you think?
Weird times. Yeah, they had a rough time in Afghanistan, that deployment right after mine. We actually took a pretty good amount of casualties in Iraq too. I think it was just a time in combat and bad transition. Yeah. Right. We talked about the bad transition. So this group of Marines that was during my time period are all killing off. And I think it had to do with that, you know, bad transition, bad time. And then who knows, because I couldn't tell you a real reason why my brother killed himself either.
So all of these things that are happening have led you to this current project, which is going to be huge, by the way. 22 and You.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I've been on CNN. I've been, you know, on TV probably in the last. I've played less shows than I've done TV appearances in the last 5 years.
That's cool.
I've been on TV so many times, and what's cool is like you watch the Today Show and you see like, oh, Gavin DeGraw is releasing a new album, and then Gavin DeGraw goes on the Today Show, and Gavin DeGraw plays a song, and then he talks for 7 seconds, and then they cut to commercial, and you don't talk to Gavin DeGraw.
Yeah, you don't know who he is. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We go on television and we sit down and we talk about our agenda, and we talk about what we want to change, and we get to publicly speak about what's happening. And I don't even bring a guitar with me most of the time, because you can hear my music. Go to iTunes. You know, it's there. Yeah, you can hear that. But
well, your mission
what
too,
we have
John,
to speak about when I have that stage, I want the world to know.
Yeah,
if I'm going on
huge.
television, I'm going mainstream, dude. We're talking about the issue, you know.
Yeah, and you've done it, and you know, you said the inspiration for this music is, you know, it's post-traumatic stress. It's the things that lead people to do things like that, and it's a freaking agenda worth playing for.
So ultimately, I went and I did a Silkies hike with Irreverent Warriors in Cincinnati. I sponsored the event. I paid for the insurance for them to be able to hike in my hometown. and it inspired me, and it inspired me in a way that I don't think I felt in a while. Like, it was not the group itself, because there's things within that are different than how I function, right? There's a lot of partying and having fun and drinking with it, and like,
Yep.
I don't do that. So I was kind of focused in on, okay, let's just get to the next place to hike, and that was kind of how I went about it. But when I got back, I was like, to actually put my feet on the ground, to actually spend time with the veterans, to actually talk to the people that are dealing with the problems instead of just publicly speaking, was important. And with all these public appearances I've done, I never have physically, I think, been able to properly put the emotions out that I go through as a brother and we go through as a family to what actually happened. So I thought, I had a fleeting thought. It was a moment of thought just a few months ago that was, what if I put a pack on and I hiked from where my life is right now in Palo Alto, right, as a firefighter, and I walk to where my life began, where my father went to boot camp in San Diego, and I do 22 miles a day with that 22 kilo ruck on my back. And I thought to myself, that's going to take a long time. I had no idea how long it was going to take yet or anything. I thought, that's going to take a long time. That's going to hurt terribly. This is going to be the worst thing I've probably physically ever done in my life. So yeah, this seems like a good idea. And rather than sit on this, and rather than worry about how I put something together like that, because I had no idea how to do anything like that, I started making phone calls. First one I called was my girlfriend. I said, hey, this is my stupid idea. Will you support it? Can you get behind me? Will you believe in me when I do this? And she said yes. And I broke down on the phone, like immediately. And I went, okay, this is real. This is what I want to do. I never thought about this before, but this is it. I've never felt this more emotionally in tune with something since I released Superman Falls. So I just started working, man. I started doing what an entrepreneur does, right? And pushing forward, calling people like you and my friends. I know River Rainbow that did the volunteers in, went to Syria and fought war and shot that whole thing and made this amazing film. And all these different people that are in film. And I called them and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? And they said, okay, come sit down with me. So I go and sit down with them and talk to them about how we're going to shoot and what we're going to do. And I'm starting to think to myself in a panic, oh my God, I've got to film this. How do I do this?
Yeah.
So then,
but it's happening. I mean, it's
already happening.
Yeah.
It's already happening no matter what. And I had decided on January 13th of this coming year, I was going to step from Palo Alto City Hall, and I was going to have the honor guard, and I was going to have a fire engine follow me through the city. And this was all happening no matter what. So I was already there. I'm already my brain's already 3 projects ahead of this one. Right.
Right.
So I'm going through all this stuff and I'm starting to build things, and I run across something that caught my eye, and I see Julia Ling, and I send Julia a message. Julia blew my mind because Julia called me back within an hour, and she said, I have watched this video. I have seen that video. I have seen everything that you are doing. It is incredible. How do we work together? And I went, okay, this is the person I want to be with. This is who I want to do work with, because we can bring each other up. So Julia and Micah get together. I sign an agreement with SRE Studios and with Veteran Power Films, and we now do a partnership together. And oh my God, I'm making a film, And now Julia jumps on board and says, I will come with you. I'll not hike with you the whole time, though we'll come out and hike at some point, but I'm going to direct the film. We're bringing a crew. This is what we're doing. Here's everything. But we're going to keep your vision as you've imagined it. My vision was 22 and you. Obviously, I have friends in the industry. I'm going to have veteran celebrities there. I'm not going to announce any names yet. They're in.
No,
So,
you've got an impressive advisory board. It's out there. That's why I wanted to get this interview, John, because we want to get the story out there in our little network and do whatever we can to push this through. Because the mission, the walk is one thing, and 22 miles a day is a lot. But it's going to happen. You're going to make it happen. It is happening. And then the agenda that you spoke about. Are you kidding me? How much?
Well, and that's the thing, dude. Like, and we got people that have signed on board. Don't get mad, dog, but we got some people that are going to be coming with us that are crazy. And I just gave you a total hint. Anyone that's listening, you should know who's going to hike with me. But it's insanity. Like,
well, I'm there. I'm down. I'm down for 44 miles anyways.
And that's the thing. Like, we got people that I can't imagine. People that are, government officials saying, bro, I'm coming out and I'm going to do 22 miles with you, and even the people that can't do 22 miles, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to be doing is we are bringing people out that aren't veteran celebrities, that aren't government officials, that aren't, mayors of cities, that are just people that need a stage, people that have dealt with this problem, that have gone through what I've gone through or worse, have witnessed the suicides or whatever, and they're now moving forward with their life and they have their success. And that's where the and you comes in, because every day we're bringing a new guest to my hike to talk with and tell their stories. And whether that makes the series and the film or that just comes out, we are having an editor that's coming with us, so we're going to be running social media content constantly. Either way, we're putting these stories out to the world, and over again, we're going to take and we're going to rattle the cage and we're going to open this narrative up, and for me, it's not, I've had some talks with some people. I talked to Rocco, and there's this negative connotation around 22, right? And this negative concept, and I'm changing that narrative. 22 is what we don't want to be, and we can only attain that by truly going after whatever your life's passion is, and finding that and moving forward. And I'm putting myself on the line. I'm going out doing something that I'm physically not capable of doing from the moment I came up with the idea. Now I'm pretty close because I'm training multiple hours a day. I'm probably putting in between 5 and 10 miles a day and hiking right now. And then on certain days, I'll go higher, 15 to 20 miles right now. I'm 4 months away. I'm going to be in incredible shape by the time this starts. But when I started this idea, I was 25 pounds overweight. I was sloppy, and I probably could run 2 miles without gassing, maybe, if I'm lucky, right?
Oh, you'll be on the calendar, man, by the end of next year.
I'm a
for
stud
sure.
right now, already. I'm getting there, and
well, the mission is righteous all the way, and
what's cool, people don't understand the behind the scenes that's happening just with my training, right? And I've been documenting some of it and doing it. I had the flu the other day. I still got up and hiked, multiple times. And just pushing through this part and grinding. And this is where my soul is growing. And I'm stuck in it. I put a pair of headphones on, right? And I just go out and I got my Dre beats. You listening, Jimmy Iovine? I got my Dre beats. And I'm, out there in another world, and I'm building my soundtrack to this album, or to this movie already, right? And it's just forward motion. And it's forward motion, and I'm growing, man, and I'm meditating while I'm out. I'm talking to my father, I'm talking to my brother, I'm talking to the universe, and I'm creating ideas, and ideas keep popping into my head, and we keep moving forward with these ideas, and we keep getting more amazing things happening as we go forward,
Absolutely. And that's what it is. It's therapeutic, and it's passion, therapy is what I'm calling it. John Preston's passion therapy, and if you have a mission, as the bedrock, I mean, you can't lose. So, so, and there you go. You're turning things around, and that's one reason why we're even doing this show is to show the world, tell the world through the stories of guys like you, John, that you're not broken, and that you can take things that are broken and you can fix them. And, so, what's the message that you would like to give to the civilian world about veterans, and especially like combat veterans? What do you want them to know?
We're not broken, dude. We're not. And we are the most incredible, interesting group. If you want to call us, I guess we're kind of like our own little minority group, right?
Right.
Like, we're our own interesting group because we don't see color. We don't see any of that. We see us, right? And we see a family every time I look at one of us. It doesn't matter where we came from, what we did. We've all gone through the same struggle together. Yeah. And we're not broken, dude. Like, we can do anything. And this is more for us too. I want us to hear this. You can do anything, dude. Step it up. Just find your passion, find your love, and go for it.
I'm glad
and for the people watching, pay attention, because we're going to the top of the world.
Yeah, something that you said, and you're so right, John. We don't play politics. We don't see color. What we see is a collective group or collective mission, and we find a way to get it done. And you're doing it, man. You're like living proof, and you're going to set the stage at a much higher level than the average Joe on the street. And there's nothing wrong with being an average Joe, but shoot for the stars and you're going to get there. So, let's just say I'm a Marine, I'm going through transition or whatever branch, and I'm in that dark place and I'm not feeling really good emotionally. What kind of advice would John Preston give him or her?
Put down whatever substance it is. Stop. Whether it's drugs or alcohol or both. Quit. I've even gone as far as I quit nicotine too, but quit it all and figure out who you really are. You got to get in your own brain first, right? And that's when the feelings and the emotions and the thoughts and the cool things, the positive, you have to think positive. You got to read positive. You got to walk into your day and not see something on television that makes you mad, and then you just walk through the rest of the day grumping because CNN attacked Trump or Fox defended Trump, whatever it is right now. That's so simple to talk about in our current state as a country. It's just crazy. This ignorance of either attack or defend. Get away from that and remember where you came from. Remember who you are. And what you've already done for this country and what you've already done, moving forward, and know now that you can accomplish any other mission that you put in front of you. You just have to take the steps forward. And it's what I'm saying as we go forward with this hike is, if you need to, I'll carry the weight, just keep walking with me. And that's it. Just keep walking.
Awesome advice. What do you want people to know? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and what would you like people to say about you, John?
I want to live for 1,000 years, if that makes sense. The Egyptians talk about as long as your name is said, right? And you had someone like Ramsey that actually during his rule took down every other name of every other pharaoh. It was just this terrible, like, disrespectful thing. And he just plastered his name all over everything, right? But I'm saying Ramsey's name today. I think, and to them, if your name was said, your soul survives. So I believe that I can leave an impact that will last 1,000 years. And I have to do everything possible within that circle to know where I'm at right now in that possibility and where I need to go. And that's my goal, 5-10 years from now, to be the household name, to be the household name, and not the household name for, something ridiculous, but the household name for someone that's doing everything that he can to attempt to help and change and build strength and positivity and growth in a community.
Pretty cool. So, how can people find out? How can they contact you, John? And then how can they find out more information where they can help with the 22 and You project?
Yeah, what's cool about this is we're dropping this so early.
Yeah, it's good,
but
man.
Right now, if you go to 22andyou.net, there is a landing page. The landing page does go to donations. All those donations are tax deductible. So even if you wanted, like, for instance, to donate equipment, it's all tax deductible. You go to 22andyou.net, 22andyou.net. That's available there. And otherwise, we're going to be loud announcing in, I think, 3 weeks, like around October. I'm going to shoot a video right now this weekend or this 4-day or whatever. I'm going to shoot a video in Toronto. I'm going to shoot some film while I'm there to go ahead and put into our first release that we're going to do. I don't like to put out Facebook Lives and stuff like that. I like to put out really well-made videos.
Right.
So that's what we're working on. That'll come out probably the second week of October. And we're going to make a press announcement, and we're going to come out and we're going to, make a big deal out of it. But right now, by then, the website will be finished. The social media will be ready. And all of that will be 22andYou doc, I believe is what we chose for our social media. But none of that right now is anything but, private pages for the moment.
Copy that. So, we've been having a great conversation with John Preston, recording artist, top of the chart artist type of guy, and a guy that's got great passion, a guy with vision, a guy that wants to seriously turn and transform the world. And, we know he's going to be living for 1,000 years. We feel it. We pray for it. And just want to say, John, is there a personal mantra, maybe your own saying or a saying that freaking resonates with you and your heart that you live by?
I don't know. Like, for the community, I always say, life is not better without you. We know that. That's truth. I think for me, I kind of always feel like I got this shit.
Yeah.
That's probably like the real me. I've had calls where it's, my whole team working on this and we're worried about this or that. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. I got this shit, because I know if I can't do it, I can think it and it'll happen. There some of the most amazing guests that we have coming out to be with us, which, God, I can't wait to announce. I thought into reality, and people don't understand that, and they don't know how that works. But read, Think and Grow Rich, read The Secret, read these books about these monumental people, Einstein, Tesla, Henry Ford, all these people. Read about them and understand that was all their philosophies. These are the greatest people in history. These are the 1,000-year-old people, right? They will be. But they thought their existence into reality. Tesla said he could close his eyes and he could see his inventions and he could move them around and change them in his own, and it wasn't, he didn't call it like in his thoughts, he called it through a sixth sense, right? So you can think amazing things and amazing things can happen. So that's how I always feel, man. I got this shit. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
And we know you do, man. So anyhow, appreciate your time today. And I know we're going to be seeing and talking to you a bunch more in the future here. We're working on our end. You mentioned gear and equipment. So we're working on our end to help secure you some of that for this adventure of yours. And just very humbled and honored to have met you and, to steal 45 minutes, an hour of your time. And just want to wish you great success. And thanks for being here, John, and for sharing your story and a relevant conversation without divisiveness and without hatred and vitriol. Something that's positive for a change.
For sure, man. And I didn't mention, and I need to mention this because they're so awesome. I'm going to shoot this video in Toronto, and what people don't understand, again, things aren't free. Yeah, Adaptive Vet and Project Unbreakable stepped up and they've bought into this video and vision that I have with this video, which is going to be wacky. I can't, it's a whole nother podcast,
We'll go.
And
I got
and
the
it's
shit.
PTS versus addiction. It's a really crazy concept, and it's going to be very like wacky, you know. But Adaptive Vet and Project Unbreakable stepped in to be part of this, and I just wanted to give out a shout out to them. Go to their websites and check it out. They're both doing incredible things for the veteran community right now, as well as being a huge supporter of what I do, which makes me be able to do more of what I do.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out because I think we actually met at an Adaptive Vet event. The barbecue was Adaptive Vet, and
yeah,
they are doing great things. And Mike out there and his whole crew, they're incredible people, great organization.
Yeah,
so.
Every time I call him, he's on the road to another place with a new trailer that they're giving to a homeless vet. They're incredible, dude. Like everything that they're doing, and what people don't understand, just like me, they've gone out of pocket on a lot of this stuff from their own money and their own life.
I think I'm in that same club, man. I get it. So, I mean, the summits look beautiful, but there's a lot of valleys and a lot of ridge lines that you have to walk to or go through to get there. So it's, that's reality, man. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure, brother. I appreciate you having me on as always. Can't wait to keep business rocking and, get this hike done, man. I can't wait to see you out here.
I know, man. It's going to be killer. And now you got me motivated, man. I'm getting old. My knees are like hurting, but I'll be there. I'll make it happen. So thanks, John. I appreciate you.
Just know every day I'm doing 5 to 10, and that's with a 50-pound pack on my back. So catch up. Come on. I know you wake up at like 5 a.m. and start PTing. Don't lie to me.
I do. But I love you, man. Thanks, John. And keep going, man. If you need anything on our end or on your end, let us know. And we're here to support you 110% in anything that you do. You know that.
Yeah, brother. Let's just keep moving and shaking. And we got an opportunity to bring, real change to the world. We can do it together.